to the American people is simple. We hear you, we see you, we feel you. Democrats are determined to make life better for you.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic Party are trying to tell the American public that there is a better way. But how exactly Democrats are selling that better way is certainly up for debate right now. My next guest has her own theory on how to win back support in what she calls a war plan to contain and defeat Donald Trump. Joining us now, Democratic Senator from Michigan, Elissa Slotkin. Senator, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Lay out your plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, I come from a national security background, CIA and the Pentagon, and so did war planning in a different part of my life on a very different issue set. And, I've been a senator for about 110 or 12 days and just got tired of waiting for someone else to do it. So I decamped with a bunch of close advisors and colleagues and wrote literally a PowerPoint presentation that was how to contain some of the worst things that President Trump is doing. And it goes through what we did in 2024, the lessons learned, what success looks like vis-a-vis Trump, right, especially as he tries to blur the lines on separation of powers and threaten our economy, and then how we mobilize those folks on the ground who really want to be in the fight, right?
Can you put some meat on the bones for that for me? What are the lessons learned and how do you mobilize?
Yeah, well, I think lessons learned certainly for me were, as someone who won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, is that we need to be focused on what the American people are really focused on, which is their pocketbooks and their kids, right? And we need to make sure people understand what our priorities are. And then if I can be honest, the thing that's a little harder to sort of quantify is getting some alpha energy into the party or back into the party. I think that's something as a Midwesterner that's really important in my part of the world. So those things I think we can improve upon. In terms of what it means to succeed, I mean, we know that Trump is slow walking us into some sort of recession or economic moment of trouble. We have to mobilize that sort of uninterested voter into the fight. That, to me, is the essential thing. If you look back at what we did in the Trump first administration, the most important thing that we thwarted, that he was his big signature thing, was to repeal Obamacare, and he wasn't able to do that. Why? Because the average person just got brought into the fight. They said, you can't take away my health care. You can't take away coverage for pre-existing conditions. So we need to educate the public, get information out to those middle voters, those swing voters, those folks who aren't interested in politics, and bring them in on the economy, Social Security, health care, VA benefits, and even things like their post office. Those are big ticket items in Michigan that it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, you are not looking to have those things taken away from you. So it's a plan to bring that middle into the fight, in addition to the base of the party who's doing really good work focusing on issues of democracy and corruption, but working on the same team.
There's a debate about how to reach that middle or how to reach those voters that ended up going to Donald Trump, that some Democrats believe that they can win back. You see Governor Gavin Newsom doing his podcast, talking to right-leaning figures or figures in the podcast world that helped Donald Trump get elected. There's also Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who was on stage with Donald Trump last night. I wonder what you make of that and whether you thought that was a good idea.
Well, look, I mean, I think those of us who are from swing states, like my governor, like myself, really have a clear mandate. And that's number one, you have to represent your entire state. And our state just voted for Donald Trump. So every day you're trying to figure out, where can I work with this administration? Where do I have to compromise? And where should I never compromise? What are the things on democracy and our values that we're never going to accept? And every single day we got to work on that. And so yesterday there was a big announcement of a fighter mission in my state. That's a good thing. We've been working on that for a decade in a bipartisan way to get that fighter mission. So I'm not going to be against it. I'm celebrating that. But on the same token, right, you have to make sure that you're real clear that him slow walking my state into a recession is unacceptable. And I'm going to push back on that with every fiber I have. So to me, I mean, we have folks who are from swing states who understand this in their bones, that if we want to win, we have to go to that middle and we have to talk about common sense issues, not ideology.
But other Democrats will say, by standing next to him and by validating him on anything, you validate him on everything. You make it seem like he is not the threat to this democracy that they say he is, that he's not doing the things to dismantle checks and balances, to destroy the federal government, to make Americans less safe, by standing next to him. You're not showing him to be the outlier that he is. Do you think that is a misguided concern?
I don't think it's misguided. I will note, just in my governor's case, she literally got pulled up on stage, and she said that right into the mic. She was not expecting to speak.
Yeah, but she was there.
Yeah, and she asked for those things. I mean, she went to the Oval Office and asked for those things for my state. And I don't think we can apologize in a swing state, in a place where we have to represent everybody, for doing things that are good inherently for our state. We can't apologize for that. But that also means we have to be vigilant when it comes back to pushing on him on the things where he is blurring the lines on separation of powers. It is not impossible to say that you can work with someone on broadband internet and in the same time push them back when they're ignoring Supreme Court orders. You got to be able to do that as a representative of a swing state like ours.
I want to play Senator Sanders, who doesn't agree with some of your ideas. You say that you shouldn't use the word oligarchy. You should say that Americans don't want a king. Here's Senator Sanders responding to that.
I think the American people are not quite as dumb as Ms. Slotkin thinks they are. I think they understand very well when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. When big money interests are able to control both political parties, they are living in an oligarchy. And these are precisely the issues that have got to be talked about. Are you living in a democracy when Mr. Musk can spend $270 million to elect Trump and then becomes the most important person in government?
It's kind of harsh the way he worded that, that the American people are not as dumb as he says you think they are. Do you have a response?
Yeah, look, I have no problem with what he's doing and what he's saying. All those things, frankly, I agree with it. It was just the term, right? My dad asked me what oligarchy meant, and I just said, America has no king. So I think the media likes to talk about a difference of opinion on a word, but there's no doubt that galvanizing energy around what's going on right now is a positive thing. I just want to work together, right? Together to actually counter this threat, as opposed to Democrats turning their guns on each other.
Well, it's not the media. It's Bernie Sanders saying it. I'm not the one saying it. I'm just playing what Bernie Sanders said. All right, Senator Slotkin, thank you so much for joining us. I do really appreciate your time, and welcome to the show now as a senator.
Thank you.